Alright, good afternoon, guys. Hopefully you're all having a fine Saturday. Good afternoon, Luca. No, I just need more coffee. Alright, looks like we got all of you in here now. So, today is going to be a fairly straightforward day. We're going to be starting this off with vehicle PID. Take you guys through some of the vehicles that you will see from Op4 forces. We will not go over every vehicle you may potentially see out there, but we'll go through a bulk of them. What their capabilities are, as well as what you can and should not engage them with. Now, today's going to be a fairly calm day. It's a lot of lecturing and a lot of information that's going to be thrown at you. Make sure you have paper and pen ready to be taking notes, because this shit is going to be important. Now, before we begin, does anybody have any questions?
No for Sergeant. No for Sergeant.
Alright. Alright, so we're going to head directly out to the vehicle PID course from here, so stand by. Alright, follow me. Alright, first vehicle we're going to be going over is the one off my right shoulder here. This is the BTR. Now, there are three main variations that we're going to cover here, and that is the BTR 60, 70, and 80. For us, there is no difference really between these three. The only minor differences being the armament, larger size machine gun or cannon mounted in the turret. But essentially, again for us, the BTR 60, 70, and 80 are all the same. Now, characteristics of this vehicle: obviously it is a wheeled vehicle, so it is rather quick and pretty goddamn nimble. It is an APC, an armored personnel carrier, so it does carry troops inside of it. Sometimes you will also see troops riding on top of it if they're really fucking stupid. It is an amphibious vehicle, meaning it can cross bodies of water. It's very vulnerable when doing so, but it can do it. And also, when it is crossing a body of water, that turret is still sticking out of the water, so it can still defend itself. Now, when it comes to engaging this type of vehicle, there are multiple different weapon systems that you can engage a BTR with. Starting from the bottom, as far as pseudo small arms, you can engage one of these with a saw. A saw is capable of taking out the tires on one of these and disabling it. Obviously, it will not destroy it, but it can disable it, stopping it from being able to move around the battlefield. That being said, keep in mind that it takes close to 100 rounds to take down one tire. Alright, so that is something done in extreme emergencies. If you have no other choice, start hitting the tires with the saw. An M4, obviously, you're not going to want to waste your ammunition. Again, it takes close to 100 5.56 rounds to take down one tire, so you're not going to fire on one of these with an M4. However, if you have a thumper on the bottom of that M4, you can load HEDP, high explosive dual purpose, and start hitting this thing and disable it. All right. Now, with those two weapon systems, with the 320 or the saw, if you disable one of these, that does not mean it is no longer a threat. Okay, just because the driver gets out or the guys inside get out does not mean that gunner necessarily has to get out of the turret. So just because you disable one and see guys dismounting doesn't mean you should turn your back to it. It is still a threat. Now, stepping it up from there, weapon systems that are native to the rifle squad, the M72 Law, you can hit one of these things and destroy it damn near every time. Alright, obviously you need to hit it within that effective engagement range. However, you hit one of these with a Law, it's most likely going to destroy it. At bare minimum, it should disable it enough to cause the crew to dismount. But again, remember, just because the crew dismounts does not mean the gunner has to get out. Now the AT4, these things are like paper mache to a fucking AT4. You hit one of these just about anywhere with an AT4, it's going to cause it to go catastrophic as long as it's within that effective engagement range. Alright, you hit one of these 600 meters out with an AT4, it's a possibility it's not going to destroy it if you're even capable of hitting it that far out. But you hit it up 200 meters or closer, you're almost guaranteed a kill. Now, with any piece of armor that has weak spots, armor generally is strongest at the front, weakest along the sides, the rear, and especially the top. So if you are hitting one of these with an AT stick, you're going to want to hit it either in the side, down by the tires, right in the ass, or if you, best of all, if you can get an elevated position above it and hit it in the top deck. Or most preferably right behind the turret on most pieces of armor. Alright, everybody tracking?
Yes, sir, Sergeant.
Alright, now going on to weapon systems carried by weapon squads. Now the M240 Bravo can engage one of these BTRs. Firstly, they can take out the tires, disable it. Secondly, our machine gunners carry a limited amount of armor-piercing ammo. That armor-piercing ammo is able to punch right through the belly armor down there by the tires and kill the crew and the occupants inside of a BTR. So do not be surprised if you see a 240 gunner engaging one of these things. Alright, he's not wasting his time or anything. He's probably loaded a belt of armor-piercing ammo, and he's killing the guys inside of it. Secondly, the M3 Maws. Now, the Maws is basically the bigger brother to the AT4. So obviously that's going to rip through one of these things, no goddamn problem. Beyond 1,000 meters, a Maws will take one of these out. Next we have a JAV, the FGM-148 Javelin missile system. The JAV is not going to be used on one of these, simply because of the fact that the rounds are too large, too expensive, and we don't carry enough of them to waste it on light armor like this. Alright, a vehicle like this is why rifle squads carry sticks of AT. Weapon squad isn't going to waste an $80,000 missile on something that can be taken out with a grenade launcher. Alright, any questions on the BTR?
No, Sergeant.
Alright, let's move on. Yeah, I have seen the M4. Pretty cool. I mean, it's the exact same thing, just lighter. Pretty much. Alright, now this next vehicle is going to look a lot like the one we just went over, because it is also a BTR. However, we cover this one separately. This is a BTR-80A, or BTR-80 Alpha. BTR-80 Alpha is covered separately because it has a very different weapon system. That weapon system being an autocannon sitting up there in that turret. Now, BTR 60, 70, and 80, fairly easy threat to deal with. BTR 80 Alpha, not so much the case. When it comes to engaging one of these things, you can engage it with all of the same weapon systems. However, you have to keep in mind that's not a 50 caliber machine gun or a small caliber cannon sitting in there. It's a goddamn autocannon that will rip your face off. So these things are incredibly dangerous, not only to us, but also to air assets. Okay, these things are made to take down airframes. So, when you see one of these, A, you need to radio it up immediately. B, if you have the capability, you need to eliminate it immediately. All right. When it comes to radioing this up and identifying it, the other three BTRs, the 60, 70, and 80, doesn't really matter. You can simply call it out as a BTR. But this one especially, you need to be specific with it. Make sure you identify it as either a BTR 80A or at bare minimum, just call it out as an autocannon BTR. All right. Reason for that being, you may not necessarily have the entire picture of the AO, of what is where. So there could be multiple pieces of armor in the AO at one time, and you're only aware of this one. That is where target's priority come into play. All right, eliminating the largest threat first. So if we have a BTR 60 and a BTR 80A both in the same AO, we're going to engage the BTR 80A first. All right, so we need to be well aware if one of these are in the area. All right, everybody tracking on that?
Yes, sir, Sergeant.
All right, let's go ahead and move on. All right, now here we have a BRDM. Now, BRDM is much like a BTR, however, it's considered I believe they consider it an armored car rather than an APC, even though it still carries troops in it and so on. Now, there are a couple different variants of the BRDM. There are the armed variants, there are unarmed variants. There's also a variant that's got a turret ring in it, but no gun on top of it. They usually just have some ass bag with a PK stand up in the turret ring. These, again, are light armor. They are not a huge threat, but obviously they need to be dealt with. Now, what is the biggest difference you guys notice between BRDM and the BTR?
Four-wheel system.
4 wheels instead of 8. Right, there are the little guide wheels in between the middle there, but you can just ignore those. So this thing has 4 large wheels on it. BTR has 8 of them. Do not confuse a BTR and a BRDM. All right, they are 2 completely different vehicles. Right, this shit becomes important when you're calling up information and you're calling up a BRDM as a BTR. Now we're searching for a BRDM instead of a BTR. All right, so make sure you understand the difference between this and the BTR. All right, any questions?
No, First Sergeant.
All right, let's go ahead and move across here. All right, next vehicle we're going to cover is the one on my right here. That's your left. This is the BMP-1. Now, the BMP-1 is classified as an IFV, an infantry fighting vehicle. It is also what we consider medium armor. Now, the BMP-1, it was initially made to kill armor, hence why it has the large smoothbore cannon on it. Now, that smoothbore cannon can fire not only AP, but it can also fire HE, high explosive rounds. So they can load HE into this thing and start firing on infantry. And when it does, it's pretty goddamn devastating because it is a big ass cannon. However, it does have a very slow rate of fire. It also has the unguided rocket that you see up on top of there, that big white rocket. All right, think of it kind of like a bottle rocket. It's on a rail. They just point it in the direction they want it to go, hit the trigger, and kind of hope for the best. Now, BMP is capable of carrying troops inside of it. It is also capable of traversing bodies of water. Now, this is a tracked vehicle, so it is incredibly maneuverable, fairly quick. When it comes to engaging one of these, obviously, or I would hope obviously, you're not going to engage it with small arms. There is no wheels to take out. You cannot disable it by destroying the wheels. So you're not going to engage this with the saw or the 320. 240 gunners also will not engage a BMP. This is medium armor. Their AP ammo is not strong enough to punch through the armor of a BMP like it does a BTR or the BRDM that we just went over. When it comes to sticks of AT, AT4 will tear one of these the fuck up, provided you hit it in the correct spots. Again, as we said earlier, armor is generally the absolute strongest right at the nose. Well, if you look at this, you'll notice this thing has very sloped armor. One of the ways to increase the armor potential of a piece of armor is to slope it. Alright, so that when something hits it, it's not hitting it straight on. So if you shoot one of these from the front with an AT4, there is a possibility it's going to do dick all to it, because it'll just bounce that round off the armor because of the extreme grade that it's on. So if you're engaging one of these, again, hit it down in the sides, in the back, or in the top plate right behind the turret. Same goes for the Law. Law, you hit one of these things in the front, it's most likely not going to do shit. You need to get around to the flanks or up above it. Alright, any questions on that?
No, Sergeant.
Alright, now the next vehicle to my left, that's your right. This is the BMP-2. BMP-2 is slightly more fucking terrifying than the BMP-1. Has all of the same characteristics, with exception to the armament. Now the BMP-2 is outfitted with basically the same exact autocannon that is on that BTR-80 Alpha that we went over a moment ago. Now it also has that big yellow tube up on top of the turret. Anybody have a guess as to what that big yellow tube is?
Guided rocket.
Exactly. That is an ATGM, anti-tank guided missile. It is wire guided, much like the TOW missiles that we use. Now, it's known as a Conqueror's missile. Conqueror's missile is one of the most terrifying fucking things in the world to a piece of armor. They are incredibly effective and very fucking accurate. They can put one of those things through the window of a building from damn near a kilometer away. So, I stress how dangerous the BTR-80 Alpha is. Well, logic would dictate that the BMP-2 is that much more dangerous because it has the exact same weapon system, it also has a guided missile, and it has heavier armor. So, just like with the BTR-80 Alpha and the other BTRs, when we're out there and you see a BMP, you need to make goddamn sure that you differentiate between these two. They look very similar. However, you look at that turret, it's pretty easy to tell which one is which. BMP-1's got that large smoothbore cannon and that white unguided rocket. BMP-2's got that small autocannon and that Conqueror's missile sitting up on top of it. So it's pretty easy to identify the two from each other. Alright, any questions on that?
No, Sergeant.
No, for sir.
Alright, let's move on. Alright. Next vehicle we're going to cover is the ZSU-23, also known as a Shilka. Now the Shilka is primarily an anti-air weapon system. You'll notice that it is mounted with quad autocannons. For that reason, one of the nicknames for this vehicle is the Zeus cannon. Now, oftentimes you'll hear guys refer to any 23 mil autocannon as a Zeus cannon. It's not necessarily correct. It's just been kind of accepted as verbiage. But in actuality, the true Zeus cannon is a Shilka. Now, the Shilka is classified as medium armor. It does not carry any troops in it. However, carries one of the most terrifying weapon systems that we go up against, and that's those 4 autocannons. Now again, I stress how dangerous the BTR-80 Alpha and the BMP-2 is, because those have a autocannon. This has not 1, not 2, but fucking 4 of them. For infantry, these things are absolutely fucking terrifying. Because as you can see, it can quite easily depress that barrel down and start firing on infantry. It is not locked into place to where it can only fire up into the air. And when one of these things do open up, you damn well know it. Now, normally I would give you guys a demonstration of its very rapid rate of fire, but none of you have earplugs in, and I don't feel like raping your fucking eardrums. So, just know that the Shilka has a very, very high rate of fire and can rip through 250 rounds of HE in a matter of less than 30 seconds. So, when you hear one of these things open up, you're going to damn well know it, because nothing else out there sounds like a Shilka. Even the stationary 23 mils, the dual cannons, they don't sound the same, right? Because it doesn't have as high a rate of fire. Now, when it comes to engaging the Shilka, it's much like the BMPs. All right, you're not going to hit it with small arms. You can hit it with AT4, Law, stuff like that. Weapon squads obviously can hit it with the Maws. They'll also use javelins on these because of how large of a threat they are. Same with the BMP2s. Weapon squads will use BMPs on those because of how big the threat is. Now, one of the easiest ways to identify a Shilka, obviously, it has a very large profile. All right, it's a tall vehicle. It's pretty goddamn easy to spot one. However, if it's partially obscured by some type of concealment, foliage, whatever, camo netting, easiest way to identify one of these things is that big white drum looking thing up on top of it. All right, it's not a snare drum. It's a fucking radar dish. Because again, this is an anti-air vehicle. So you see that white radar dish sticking up on top of there that looks like a drum, you instantly know that's a Shilka. There's nothing else that has that. Closest thing to it is something known as a Tunguska. Now, Tunguska is kind of like the bigger, badder, meaner brother to the Shilka. We do not have one of those out there, but very quickly I'll go over it. Now, the Tunguska, again, much like this, is an anti-air vehicle. However, it is able to fire on ground troops. However, instead of having 4 autocannons, and instead has 2 autocannons and up to 8 guided missiles to take out air targets. So, it's not necessarily as large of a threat to us on the ground, only having 2 out of 4 autocannons. However, with those guided missiles, they are a huge threat to air assets. So when we see one of those Tunguskas, we try to take them out fucking immediately. Now, the easiest way to identify a Tunguska and differentiate it from a Shilka, first and foremost, it doesn't have 4 big-ass barrels sticking out its nose. Secondly, it has those large missile pods on the outside of the turret. On the extreme flanks of the turret is where the missile pods are. So you'll have the cannons in the center, and then the missile racks on the outsides of that. Additionally, it also has a radar dish on top of it. However, it does not look the exact same as what you see up on the Shilka there. All right, it's kind of your more traditional concave looking radar dish. All right, any questions on the Shilka or the Tunguska?
No, First Sergeant.
No.
All right, let's move on. I'll very quickly go over these two. These are 2 more of the variations of BMPs. We do not really see them all too often. The exception being, as you can see, the one here directly to my right has a large cannon, but it also has that Conqueror's missile on top of it. Now, there are a couple of different variations like this. These 2 aren't necessarily so important. The one that is, well, 2 are the BMP3 and the BMP4. Now, they're very easily identifiable because they look nothing like these other BMPs that you've seen today. BMP3 and the BMP4 kind of are the bastard childs of the BMP1s and BMP2s, where they'll have the large caliber cannon like you see here, and instead of that machine gun mounted next to the cannon, the BMP3s have the same autocannon that's on the BMP2. So you'll see another large barrel mounted right to the cannon, the main cannon of a BMP3. that other long barrel is an autocannon just like what's on a BMP2. So again, they basically took a BMP1, a BMP2, slapped it together, and made it into the BMP3, which is kind of the most terrifying bastard child of the two. Alright, any questions on those?
No,
Alright,
Sergeant.
let's go ahead and move on. Alright, who has a guess as to what this is?
Battle tank.
You scoff because you think it's a simple answer, but you are 100% correct. That is how we identify one of these. It's an MBT, main battle tank. Good enough. For us on the ground, there's no goddamn difference whatsoever between any of them. Simple reason being, we don't fuck with them. Doesn't matter if it's a T-72, T-80, or a T-90, or any of the variations of those three, it's a main battle tank, or simply a tank. Does not matter which designation it has, because it's basic infantry. There is dick all we're going to do against it. When it comes to engaging one of these, us as infantry, the only thing we carry that can even tickle one of these is an AT-4. And if you're going to fire an AT-4 at one of these, it better be a fucking emergency, and you better have a damn good shot at it. Either hit it down in the tracks and try to disable the tracks so at least it can't move anymore. Hit it directly in the ass to try and disable the engine. Or preferably, if you can get an elevated shot, hit it from above, right behind the turret. You'll see a couple of grates back there behind the turret. Those grates are the exhaust for the engine. If you can plant a rocket right into those grates, that's your best bet to disable this vehicle. But you're most likely not going to destroy it. Now, weapon squads can take one of these out with the Maws, or especially with the Javelin. This is what the Javelin was made for. Quite literally, when the Javelin was developed, it was developed to kill Russian armor. Well, it's very goddamn good at it. Now, the only time the variations really become important are if air assets are engaging. But if air assets are engaging, most likely 99% of the time, JTAC is going to have eyes on it, and he's going to be the one detailing exactly which version it is. Now, the only reason I bring that up is because the later model main battle tanks have reactive armor. Reactive armor not only will help against missiles and things like that, but it also plays hell with the cannon on the A-10, which we'll be going over here in a little bit. But with that reactive armor, as was relayed to me via Captain Soto, basically to do a gun run on something like a T-90 with heavy reactive armor, basically have to turn the A-10 into a dive bomber and come straight down on top of them, letting that cannon sing. Otherwise, the rounds won't penetrate. Right, so that's the only time the variations really become important. But again, for us as basic infantry, doesn't matter. That's up to the JTACs to make that differentiation if we're having air assets engage. All right. Any questions on the main battle tank?
First
No,
sergeant.
First Sergeant.
All right, let's move. All right, next two vehicles we're going to cover is the GAZ and the Ural. Ural being on my left, GAZ being on my right. Now, these are basic troop transports. These are what we classify as soft targets. Now, when it comes to engaging one of these, you can engage it with every weapon system that we are carrying, whether it be M4, 320, 249, so on and so forth. Now, these are also very good targets for an M72 Law. Right, this is one of the reasons that we carry the Law. Many people have the misconception that the Law is made to kill armor. It's not really true. The Law is not great at killing armor. The Law is very good at destroying soft targets like this. So, should one of these vehicles get into an area you're covering and they're dumb enough to not dismount their troops before they're in engagement range, pull that Law off your back and hit one of these with that. It's one and done. All right. Now, when it comes to engaging these with small arms and stuff, obviously you can shoot right through the cab, kill the guys inside. The guys in the back are also fucked. It's only a canvas top. It's not going to be stopping bullets or anything. However, the one piece of advice I will give you, these things are like fucking Christmas morning to machine gunners and weapon squads. Alright? Bad guys in the back are the fish. Truck is the fucking barrel. Machine gunners love them. So, if you see a 240 engage one of these things, just save your ammo. Wait for guys to try and pile out of the back and mop them up. Otherwise, just save your ammo and wait. Because those 240s are going to rip right through this truck. They can hit the cab, kill the guys in the cab, and go into the back and start ripping through the bodies from the cab. So, don't bother wasting your ammunition. Alright? Any questions on the GAZ or the Ural?
No, First Sergeant.
Alright, let's go ahead and move on. Alright, now here we have two UAZs. However, these UAZs are gun trucks. Alright, one on my left is outfitted with an AGS-30. That is a 30mm fully automatic grenade launcher. One on my right is fitted with a Dishcom. That's a 12.7mm heavy machine gun. Essentially a 50 caliber machine gun. Notice I said that these are gun trucks. Oftentimes you will hear guys call these technicals or simply a techie. At least in my experience, these are not technicals. Alright, a technical is a fucking taco truck with a Dishcom in the back of it. And by taco truck, I don't mean the fucking food truck your fat ass goes to get some lunch. A taco truck is a Toyota. If you've ever been in country, say taco truck, means fucking Toyota. Say techie, means a fucking Toyota with a machine gun or a mortar in the back of it. So these are not technicals, they're gun trucks. They were purpose built and have mounted these weapon systems. Right? They didn't just bolt the thing into the bed of the truck. Now, the other important thing to note, this vehicle on my left, that's your right, the AGS-30 sitting up there. It is a, yes, fully automatic grenade launcher, but it is not a Mark 19. Do not fucking call it a Mark 19. Right, Mark 19 is the 40mm fully automatic grenade launcher that we use. That is not a goddamn Mark 19. It's an AGS-30. Alright. Reason being, if you call out that we're being engaged by a Mark 19 and we're using our trucks that day, if we're working in mounted operations and we have the gun trucks with us, and one of those is a Mark 19, and you call out that we're being engaged by a Mark 19, we're instantly going to be yelling at the guy on our Mark 19 to stop firing because he's engaging friendlies, when in actuality, he's not shooting fucking anywhere near you. It's the enemy engaging with an AGS-30. Alright, everybody tracking on that?
Yes,
First Sergeant.
Alright, let's go ahead and move on down here. Alright, here, start off with the OPT-4 air assets. We have the Mi-24 Hind. Now, the Mi-24 Hind is the primary attack gunship of OPT-4 forces. It's easily recognizable due to that dual bubble canopy up front. This is one of the most identifiable airframes in the world because of that distinctive style of that canopy. Now, this thing is not only, however, an attack gunship. It is also a troop transport. If you look inside those little windows along the starboard side here, you can quite easily see inside there some benches. Those benches carry troops, so this thing can land and drop off troops. That being said, majority of the time you're not going to see that happen, because this thing can do a whole hell of a lot more damage than those troops can do on the ground. Now, when it comes to armament for these things, pretty much anything, any weapon system you can think of has been strapped to one of these things at some point in time or another. Obviously, has its nose-mounted cannon. This one in particular has rocket pods as well as Conqueror's missiles on it. Now, they can also use cannon pods, dumb drop bombs, laser guided bombs, fuel bombs, obviously guided missiles, unguided missiles, all kinds of shit can be strapped under the winglets of one of these hinds, and there are multiple different variations. Now, when it comes to engaging a hind, we don't. That's what air assets are for. We as infantry, we find a hole and fucking hide in it. Right? At most, we can use a javelin to take out a helicopter. But majority of the time, we're going to leave it to air assets. That's one of the reasons that they're there. Now, the other important thing to note, not every single goddamn attack gunship is a hind. Okay, keep that in mind. There's also things like K-52s and shit like that that we don't have out here, but understand that this is a hind. There are many like it, but this one is a hind. Alright? Don't simply call out every goddamn attack helicopter you see as a hind. Alright? If you don't know exactly what it is, just call it out as an enemy helo or an enemy gunship. We'll know what you mean. Alright? Any questions on that?
Sergeant?
No, First Sergeant.
Alright, let's go ahead and move on. Alright, the next gunship we're going to be going over is the Mi-8 HIP. Now, the HIP was originally used for troop transport. However, much like the Huey, they just said, oh wait, we can strap guns to this thing. So they did. So not only can this thing carry a large amount of troops, it also carries weapon systems. And again, much like the Hind, pretty much anything you can think of, they can put on one of these things. This one has cannon pods, rocket pods. It also has the cheek gun up front and another one in the rear. Now, same goes for this as with the Hind. Right? We don't engage one of these things. If it's already airborne, there isn't really dick all we can do against it. And sure as shit, do not fire small arms at it, because you're not going to hit the damn thing. Alright, I don't care if you truly believe you are Wyatt fucking Earp. You're not going to hit a helicopter traveling at a couple 100 miles an hour with your M4. Now, we can engage one of these things if they're still sitting on the deck. If they're getting ready to spool, then anything 7.62 or higher can do damage to this thing. Alright, so M240 Bravos, the 50 cals on our gun trucks, can fuck one of these up. Alright, the 240s can hit the rotors and take those out, cause them to be unable to lift, or if they're already just starting to lift, can cause them to go into a fucking death spin. 50 cals can punch right through the glass on this thing and kill the pilots. We can also hit them with AT4s if they're still sitting on the ground before they lift. Alright, but once they lift and get moving, there's dick all that we're going to do against them. Alright, any questions on the Mi-8 HIP?
Does the
No,
rules
First
of
Sergeant.
engagement on the Hind also apply for the... let me rephrase. The Mi-8 rules of engagement for attacking the Mi-8 apply to the Hind. So if you see a Hind can hit with 7.62 or...
Yes, but again, that's only in the rotors. Right, the canopies on these things are made to basically stop small arms. It doesn't mean that you can't get lucky and get one to go through if you start pummeling the fuck out of it. Very quickly, that's one of the common misconceptions to ballistic glass. Okay, ballistic glass isn't bulletproof. Why most people that know what the fuck it is get pissed off when someone calls it bulletproof glass. It's not fucking bulletproof. Right? It's bullet resistant, but ballistic glass can only take so much damage. So if you were to engage the cockpit of one of these or a Hind with, say, an M240 Bravo, you put enough rounds into it, eventually you're going to get penetration. But by that time, the thing is probably already fucking lifted. So go for the rotors. you can do a whole hell of a lot more damage to the gyroscopics and so on up on that rotor in a lot shorter amount of time than what you're going to do trying to bust through that canopy. The only exception to that being with the 50 cals on the gun trucks. Those M2 machine guns will punch right through the canopy of one of these things. Alright, any other questions? Alright, let's move on. Alright, now this is the classic MI8 hip. This is just the base troop transport version. Alright, now these do still have armament. As you can see, it still has the cheek gun up front. There's another one on the right ass cheek of this. They're just basic Dishcom 50 cal machine guns. Alright, now these things you're more likely going to see landing and dropping off troops. Just like with the other airframes. If they're getting ready to lift, we can engage them. If they're already in the air, don't bother. If they're coming into land, then we can definitely engage them. Alright. Any airframe is its most vulnerable when it's sitting on the ground. So when these things come into land to drop off troops, if they're within range of us, we're going to tear them the fuck up. But if they're in range of us, they're pretty goddamn stupid. So it's probably not going to happen. But just keep in mind, if you do see one of these things landing, and it's out of your range, say it's dropping back behind defilade, just keep an eye on that area, because it's most likely dropping off troops. Alright, any questions on the hip?
No, First Sergeant.
Alright, move on. Alright, now we are going to go over some Blue 4 airframes. Right. First one we're going to be going over is the AH-64 Apache. Now, it's the longbow. The AH-64 is our primary attack gunship. Now, it is outfitted with a couple of different weapon systems. Firstly, we have the 30mm chain gun underneath the nose. We also have the Hydra missiles. Those are the things in the tubes there. And lastly, we have one of the greatest armor-killing weapon systems ever created. That is the Hellfire missile. This can carry up to 16 Hellfire missiles. If you put a rack on each pylon, you got 4 missiles per rack, 4 pylons, so it can carry up to 16 Hellfire missiles. The variant we use generally carries 8 Hellfires, 2 rocket pods, and 2 Sidewinders. Sidewinders go on the outsides of the winglets there. Those Sidewinders are air-to-air missiles. Alright, so the Apache is capable of taking down other air assets. Now, the way the Apache generally works is that you won't see it. It is incredibly rare for you to ever see this thing in the AO. They'll sit 2, 3, 4 kilometers out there, and they'll use this big ass camera on the front of it to spot and identify targets for us. This is primarily used for reconnaissance. When it is called in for CAS, close air support doesn't mean the airframe is close to you. Alright, it means the support is fucking close to you. So this thing can put rounds on target very goddamn close to you. With that cannon, they have full flare capabilities. They can put 30mm rounds on target within fucking 50 meters of you if absolutely necessary. Alright, from beyond 2 kilometers away. So this thing can fucking reach out there and touch somebody from a long ways out there. The missiles, those Hellfire missiles, the Lima variant that we use, can be guided in via laser. So generally what would happen is either JTAC or a UAV operator can laze a target with their laser designator or with the UAV. This can be sitting back behind a mountain 4 kilometers away. They can pop up from behind the mountain, fire the missile, and immediately drop back down behind cover without anybody ever even knowing they were there. And that missile will follow that laser in, right? And it will follow the contour of the ground, all right, to be less easily detected. Impact, and that armor piece is dead, and nobody has any idea the Apache was ever there. All right, so oftentimes this thing goes underrated because nobody has any idea how much work it actually does because they never see it. Now, generally, granted it's being phased out, but oftentimes the Apache will work not only in pairs with another Apache, but with another airframe known as a Kiowa. Now, a Kiowa is kind of like the eyes and ears of the Apache. Kiowas can also have weapon systems mounted to them. They'll mount Maverick or Hellfires to them and so on so that they can engage themselves. But the Kiowas have a large camera up on top of the rotor. That camera basically identifies targets, lays targets, so on for the Apache. Our UAV kind of fills that role. So instead of using a Kiowa, we use a UAV. Alright. Now the call sign for the Apache is Warlord. And that will be important. Alright, any questions on the Apache? Alright, let's move on. Alright, here we have the AH-6 Little Bird. This is the MELB variant, Mission Enhanced Little Bird. Now, the MELB variant comes with a couple of goodies. Firstly, that camera right underneath the nose. That camera is able to identify targets from a long fucking ways away. Alright, these things can damn near tell you if you wiped your ass from 3 kilometers away. It also has the same Hydra missile pods, or Hydra rocket pods, that the AH-64 Apache does. That's what you see under the right side there. And directly behind me is one of the best goddamn weapon systems ever created by man. That is the GAU-19 Bravo. GAU-19 Bravo is a 50 caliber Gatling gun, and they are absolutely awesome. Now, this thing does pack a punch. However, as you can see, it is not heavily armored. It doesn't even have fucking doors on it. All right, so the Little Bird is primarily used for reconnaissance. And this thing will sit a couple clicks out there, fly a racetrack, and just spot targets for us, identify shit, lays targets if needed, so on and so forth. If we do call it in for CAS, for close air support, one, it's very rare. A majority of the time, you guys are, much like the Apache, you guys are never going to see this airframe. But if we do call it in for close air support, this thing will come in very, very low, preferably below the fucking treetops if they can. Right, flying what's known as MO, Map of the Earth. Alright, so they'll come in, tail up, hauling ass down as low as they can possibly get. When they get close to their target, they'll pop up, do their strafing run with rockets and guns, and then piece the fuck out of the area. And because again, these things are not heavily armored. A lucky AK-47 round can take this entire thing down. Right. Now, the call sign for the Little Bird is Lancer. Alright, any questions on the Little Bird? Alright, let's go ahead and move on. Alright. Last airframe we're going to cover is the A-10 Thunderbolt II. Probably the last time you're ever going to hear it called the Thunderbolt II. Got any history nerds here that know what the original Thunderbolt is? No? No Air Force nerds? Original Thunderbolt was the P-47. And you guys ever heard of the P-47? No? Jesus Christ, now I feel old.
Oh, I've heard of it.
Alright, there we go. P-47 Thunderbolt, also known as the Jug, or the Milk Jug, because it looked like a fucking milk jug, is the predecessor to this thing, back in the 1940s. Reason it's the predecessor is because the P-47 was also renowned for killing tanks, because it had huge armament. It had, the later variants had up to 8 50 caliber machine guns on it, much like the P-51. This is a little bit meaner. Now, the A-10 Warthog comes outfitted with many different weapon systems. And we're not going to go through every single one of them, but they come with FFAR rocket pods, AGM-65 Mavericks, AIM-9 Sidewinders, GBUs, laser guided bombs, unguided bombs, so on and so forth. Pretty much any modern munitions that you can think of to strap to an airplane will go on the A-10, because this thing is made for close air support. Right? That is what this plane was designed for back in 1970s, was for close air support. This was the first airframe ever made for close air support. Hence why it's still in active service all these years later. Now, the last weapon system is the one everybody gets a chub for. That's the GAU-8 Avenger. GAU-8 Avenger is that thing sticking out the nose there. It is a 30mm Gatling gun that fires depleted uranium rounds. It is designed to kill tanks. And yes, this plane was designed around that gun. They knew when they started designing the A-10 that this gun would be going in it. Now, my love affair for the A-10 is no goddamn secret. Previously being at Talil Air Base, where these things were stationed in Iraq, I can tell you now, there is nothing else like it in the world. Not only with its armament, but just in the sheer sound of it. Right, this thing doesn't have a traditional jet engine. It has two turbofan engines. And so when these things spool up and it takes off, there is no other airplane out there that sounds like one. And both us and the enemy are well fucking aware of it. Now, that is one of the other very distinctive factors of the A-10, is not only its destructive capability, but its ability to cause the enemy to run like baby back bitches. Because they know what it's capable of, and they know when one is in the area, because when it gets close enough, they can hear those engines. And when it opens up with that cannon, they know what it is. Nothing else in the world sounds like it. Now, one of the most distinctive features of the A-10, aside from that monster-ass cannon sticking out the nose, yes, this thing is incredibly ugly looking to those that do not know what the fuck it's capable of. To those that do, we think it's one of the most beautiful things ever fucking created. But this thing has very large, flat wings. It's designed like that on purpose. Again, it's close air support in mind. So this thing is able to go, or is able to be very, very maneuverable at low speeds. All right, this thing is not fast. It's not a supersonic plane. Right, so it cannot crack the sound barrier. But it can make extremely tight turns at low speeds, which is perfect for close air support. So you will see this thing quite often. Because when they come in on gun runs and so on, they get down nice and low, and they're real close to us. Same goes for when they're oftentimes dropping bombs. You'll see them. They're close enough for you to see them drop the bomb. Alright. Now, the call sign for the A-10 is Thunder. Alright. Any questions on the A-10? Alright. Let's go ahead and move on. Alright, now the next thing we're going to go over is two airframes as well as how to mount and dismount them. The first one we're going to go over is the UH-60 Blackhawk. Anybody have a guess as to what UH stands for besides Uniform Hotel? Nobody has a guess. You guys are fucking killing my soul. Uniform Hotel is utility helicopter. Blackhawk, when it was designed, was made to basically take over for the Huey. Right? So when the Army adopted this thing, it took the place of the Huey. Right? Marines, for whatever reason, decided they didn't really care for it, so they stuck with the Huey. We used the Blackhawk. UH-60 Blackhawk. Alright? Now, this is one of our aerial troop transports. Right now, again, these things are used for all kinds of shit, but we use it for troop transport. Now, it's capable of lifting 12 troops, including the door gunners. We do not run a crew chief and a designated door gunner. To tell you the truth, vast majority of the time, Blackhawks don't even fly with weapon systems unless they are in combat, which usually we are, but we don't fly with a crew chief and a door gunner. Those roles are filled by team leaders and above. So when you load into the airframe, if you're a team leader or above, your responsibility is to get on those guns. Those guns are the two waist-mounted guns on either side, both being 7.62 millimeter Gatling guns. Now when you do get on those guns, immediately point them down at the ground. Two very simple reasons. One, those weapon systems don't have a safety in ARMA, unfortunately. So if you accidentally hit your big fucking finger on that trigger, it will go off. Two, point it at the air and you negligently discharge that thing, you're going to hit the goddamn rotors if it's spooling up. So point it at the ground. Now, we make a pretty goddamn big deal about it when somebody negligently discharges their rifle. All right? That's a single round coming out of a 5.56 rifle. These things are a 7.62 Gatling gun. A negligent discharge of this is probably 5 rounds, maybe a little bit more. All right? So be very goddamn vigilant when it comes to your trigger finger around those guns. Now when we do load up, we will generally load up from both sides, as you can see demonstrated here. Again, this airframe will fit 12 guys, so we put 1 squad per Blackhawk. You'll load 1 team on each side. You'll line up in a straight file, crouched like you see here. Really, you only need to crouch if the blade is spooled up, but guys pretty much always do it just because it's habit. And so you'll approach from a 90-degree angle, crouched in a straight file. Your squad leader will ask the pilot for permission to board. Pilot will give him permission to board, and then he'll relay to you guys to load up. And then you guys will start piling in. Alright. Now, there is some variation to that. If we're going to be fast roping or so on, you'll number off and so on. But that is stuff you'll go through in air assault school. Alright. Any questions on boarding the Blackhawk?
First Sergeant, what is the call sign for the Blackhawk?
We will go over that here in just a second. Alright, let's move over and go over dismounting. Now when you dismount the Blackhawk, generally, alright, we'll load in, and something that I forgot to mention, when you load in the helicopter, try to keep the comms to a minimum. Luckily, we have an intercom system now where the guys in the back aren't heard by the crew in the front, but still try and keep the comms to a minimum so your squad leader and other command elements can hear what the fuck is going on their radios, because the intercoms are pretty fucking loud. Now once we're kind of into the area, generally we'll get a call from the pilot telling us, 1 minute, 30 seconds, so on. That's going to be echoed down the line, at least if guys are paying attention. So if we get the call 30 seconds, somebody else is going to yell out 30 seconds, and then everybody else is going to echo that 30 seconds so that it's ensured that everybody fucking hears it. Once those wheels touch the deck, we all pile the fuck out of that helicopter. Everybody get out as quickly as you possibly can. Because again, like we were talking about earlier, helicopters are most vulnerable when they're sitting on the ground. Alright, so we pile out of this fucking thing as quickly as we can. Once you get out, doesn't matter what side it spits you out. And the Blackhawks, unfortunately, will sometimes spit guys out just randomly. Alright, so it can throw 6 of you out the right side and 4 out the left, or 8 out the right side and 2 out the left. It's just RNG. Alright, shit happens. But once you get out, take a couple quick steps, hit the deck. All right, you want to be right below the rotor blades like you see these guys, and set up a semicircle around the bird like what you see here. Again, it's a little difficult sometimes because you don't necessarily have enough guys on your side to cover a full 180, but do the best that you can. Just get out of the bird, hit the deck, start providing security. Because while that thing's sitting on the ground, it's incredibly dangerous. So your job at that point is to get down, pick up a sector, and eliminate any threat that presents itself to that helicopter. Once that thing lifts, now your job is to protect yourself. So get the fuck out of the big open field that we just landed the helicopter in. Alright? That is one of the biggest pet peeves of command elements, is we get out of the birds, those things take off, and everybody just stays laying there with their dick in the dirt. Alright? You just landed an extremely loud helicopter in the middle of a large open field. Reason would fucking dictate, get the hell out of the open field. Move to some cover or concealment. Don't wait for someone to tell you to move. Just get the fuck out of the field. Alright, everybody tracking on that?
Yes, First Sergeant.
Alright, let's go ahead and move on to the next one. Alright, this is the CH-47 Chinook. Chinook is our primary airframe for troop transport. Now, when we load into this, unlike the Black Hawk, obviously it doesn't have doors on the sides. It's got a large ramp in the back. So when we load into this, we approach at a 45-degree angle off the ramp in a straight file like what you see here. Just like with the Black Hawk, squad leader will approach, ask for permission to board, he'll get permission, and start telling you guys to load up. You guys will load in. Also, just like the Black Hawk, you're a team leader or above, your responsibility is to get on that gun. Now, you can load this from both sides. So you can have a line coming off right there, and a line coming off basically where I'm at right now. So this thing is capable of holding 26 guys. So we can load 2 full squads into this, no problem. So generally you'll have 1 squad loading off the left side, 1 squad loading off the right side. Pretty simple. Now the guys that are on the ramp, meaning the last guys in the line, they are also capable of raising their weapon and pointing it out that back ramp. That is incredibly important to do when we're fucking landing. Okay, because this thing only has guns on the sides. It has no weapon systems on the rear of the bird. So when we're landing, it's the responsibility of those guys on the ramp to make sure that there's nothing directly behind the bird. Any questions on loading for the Black Hawk? Or sorry, for the Chinook. Alright, let's move over. Now when it comes to dismounting the Chinook, unlike the Black Hawk, we have a very orderly procedure when it comes to dismounting the Chinook. Reason being, if you all just pile out of the Chinook, Arma being Arma, will fucking bug out and stand guys on top of each other and cause someone to go into that big ass rotor on the tail, which will not only fuck him up, but it'll also destroy the tail rotor on the bird and potentially cause the bird to go catastrophic, killing the entire fucking squad, or the entire platoon damn near that's in there. So when we get out, or when we dismount from the Black Hawk, we dismount from ramp to cockpit, right? From back to front. At most 2 guys at a time. Okay, so the 2 guys on the ramp are the first guys to get out. As soon as they get out, they're going to button hook and turn and face the front of the bird. That's the guys you see there and there. Right? They button hook, come out, and provide security to the front of the bird. And then everybody else comes out 1, 2 at a time and start filling in the semicircle all the way around. Now what you see here is only a squad demonstrating the security. Keep in mind, we're going to have at least 2 squads inside of each one of these birds. So there's going to be a lot more fucking guys here. You're going to be packed in a lot closer. But the main thing is just making sure, A, you get out of the bird, B, you pick up a sector and start providing security. Right? It doesn't have to be amazing spacing or anything like that. Just get out as quick as you can, get on the ground, and provide security. All right. Any questions on dismounting the Chinook? All right. Now the call sign for both of these, being the Blackhawk and the Chinook, is Phoenix. However, it's differentiated in the fact that the Chinook is called Phoenix Heavy, where the Blackhawk is just plain Phoenix. All right. Pretty easy to understand why. Chinook's capable of lifting fucking 10 tons of weight. Blackhawk isn't. Alright, so Chinook is what you'll see hauling around mobile artillery systems and shit like that. Humvees, all kinds of different shit. That's what the Chinook is really goddamn good at. Okay, so Susie may have a fat ass, but she's pretty goddamn mean. Alright, any questions on the Blackhawk or the Chinook? Any dealings with them? No? Alright. Go ahead and move on. Alright. Before we move on to this next part, since I am running solo today, I am going to give you guys a quick 5 minutes to grab yourself something to drink, take a piss, rub one out, wherever the fuck it is you need to do. But you've got 5 minutes to do it, and then we'll get back at it. Your time starts now. Alright guys, I will be right back. Alright, that's close enough to 5 minutes. Got all 4 of you back?
Yes, First Sergeant.
Yes, First Sergeant.
Roger.
Alright. So, next thing we're going to be going over is our gun trucks. Now, our gun trucks, the ones we primarily use, the ones you see behind me here, are Cougars. Right, the other variants we use, we'll use RG33s, an unarmed MRAP. Not used too often, but we do use them. The other one you'll see is the RG31 GCV, or Ground Command Vehicle, which is the one you see back behind you guys back there, that big tube on the back of it. That is the RG31 GCV. Now, that big tube on the back, that's a periscope camera. Basically, it's a big camera on top of a mast that'll rise up out of that tube that has full night vision and thermal capabilities. That, again, will be used by a command element. You guys don't have to worry about dealing with one of those, most likely. The ones we primarily use, however, again, are the ones you see right behind me, the Cougars. All right, the Cougars are, I keep forgetting to believe it's a class 1. I can't remember which way the damn system goes now. Lower number is better, higher number is better. Either way, it's an MRAP. All right, MRAP standing for Mine Resistant Ambush Protected. Okay, now, majority of the time you'll hear guys simply call these MRAP instead of a Cougar, and then they'll call the RG33s an RG. I personally am not a fan of doing that, simply because of the fact that they're all MRAPs. MRAP is not the name of a vehicle, it's a classification of a vehicle. The name of these things is a Cougar. MRAP is simply the type of vehicle that they are. Now, the MRAP was born from essentially our second deployment to the sandbox. It was very quickly found that the flat bottoms of the Humvees were not conducive to explosive forces underneath them, referring to IEDs. So, when a mortar shell would get touched off underneath of a Humvee, that explosive force would be pushed up and inside of the vehicle. So, the military asked for a new design, and the MRAP was born. Now, the most distinctive feature of an MRAP is the bottom of it. It has a V-shaped hull. All right, think kind of like a boat. That's what the bottom of these trucks look like. Done like that so that when that explosion goes off underneath the track, or underneath the truck, that explosive force and all that shrapnel is pushed up and away from the vehicle. Now, that doesn't mean these things are bomb-proof. All right, set a 155 shell off underneath anything up to and including a fucking M1 Abrams, it's gonna do damage, but it's a lot more survivable. Right? These things can take a lot more damage. I personally watched one with almost the entire front of the fucking truck blown off, be able to get back to the base, and the guys inside make it. All right, now, yeah, guys will still be beat the fuck up, blown out eardrums, cuts, bruises, stuff like that, but they at least still get to go home. Now, the ones we use, the Cougars, these are a big step up from the ones we used to use, the Max Pros. Anybody that's worked with a Max Pro most likely fucking hates it. Reason being, they're very tall. They have an incredibly high center of gravity. Very, very fucking easy to flip over. And they handle like dog shit. So these Cougars are a big improvement. Now, we have two different, essentially, variations of the Cougar that we use. And the only variation being in the armament. There's the ones with the M2 heavy caliber, 50 cal heavy machine gun. And there's the one with the Mark 19, 40 millimeter grenade launcher. There's also a variant that we have that has the 240 Golf mounted on it, but we don't use it because why take a 240 when you can take a 50 cal? We're lucky in the sense that, you know, we're essentially very well supplied. So, when working with these trucks, when we're doing mounted operations, i.e. a convoy, there are a couple different things that you're going to be doing. Firstly, each one of these trucks will hold an entire squad. So generally we're going to assign one squad per truck. One fire team is going to be responsible for the vehicle. The other fire team is simply there to ride in the back and get the fuck out when we stop the trucks. Now the team that is responsible for the vehicle, each person in that team kind of has their own job. The rifleman is going to be the driver. Grenadier is going to be the gunner. The AR and the team leader just ride in the truck. Now when it comes to the rifleman, he's the driver. He's got arguably the biggest responsibility. So if you're a rifleman, before you even get in the server that night, you're going to know well ahead of time which vehicle you're taking, what order in the convoy you're going to be, who's going to be riding in your vehicle, so on. So when you load into the server, get geared up, go through your PCCs, do all your radio checks and everything, generally your team leader is then going to tell you, alright, go get our Vic, get it lined up. So you'll go over, if you're supposed to be grabbing a 50 cal truck, you'll grab a M2, hop in it, and get it lined up on the road in the order of the convoy you're supposed to be in. So if you're supposed to be the third Vic, you'll line it up as the third Vic in line. And once you get the vehicle lined up, your job is not done. You now have to do the radio check for your vehicle. Now to do your radio check, firstly you need to open and program the long-range radio that is in the truck. Now there is actually two long-range radios in the truck. There is one that is accessible to the driver, and there is one that is accessible to the grenadier up in the gunner's nest. Alright? Driver is generally the one that works the radio. So to open your radio, your long-range radio, you hold Alt and press P, as in Papa. So instead of Control P for your short range, you hold Alt and press P for your long range. That'll pull up the long-range radio in the truck. Now it works just like the short-range one. It looks very different, but all the buttons say the same thing when you hover over top of them. So when you pull up your radio, you're going to program in the frequency 50. Alright, I'll say that again. 50 is the convoy frequency. Do not ever forget that. Once you program in that frequency, you're going to set that radio to speakers. That radio inside the truck is the only radio you will ever set to speakers, so that everybody inside the truck can hear what's going on Convoy Net. That being said, if for some reason you have a command element riding in your truck, do not set that radio to speakers. We've already got way too much radio chatter going on, and we're probably already listening to Convoy Net, so we don't need it echoing in our ear from the intercom. Alright? Everybody tracking on that?
Yes, First Sergeant.
Yes, First Sergeant.
Now, as I said, the gunner also has a long-range radio. He can also set his radio to 50. Obviously, you do not want him to set it to speakers if the driver already has his on speakers. If both radios inside the truck are set to speakers, it's going to destroy your fucking ears. So that's up to the driver and the gunner to dictate who's going to have their shit on speakers. Also, obviously the driver is capable of speaking on the radio. As I said, generally, the gunner is capable of speaking on the radio. Generally, the driver, though, is the one that handles vehicle communications. The only time there's an exception to that is in order to speak on the long-range radio, the default control is to hold Control and Caps Lock at the same time to speak on the long-range radio. Now, as you can imagine, that's a bit of a pain in the ass when you're using Whiskey Alpha Sierra Delta to drive. Alright, so unless you change that default hotkey, it can be pretty goddamn hard to talk on the radio and drive at the same time. So if you don't change that control, then you can hand it over and let the gunner handle vehicle communications, because he's just standing there in the turret. It's very easy for him to talk on the radio while he's standing there in the turret. Also, he has really good eyes all the way around the vehicle. So it's not a horrible idea to have the gunner handle vehicle communications. Now, back to the rifleman. Once you have the vehicle lined up and you do your radio check for your vehicle, or you start your radio check for your vehicle, I should say, it is much like the radio check you do with your short-range radio. Only your calling station is now your vehicle number. All right? It's not your name. It's not a normal calling station of a team leader or anything like that. It's your vehicle number. So instead of saying, you know, this is so-and-so radio check, you would say, this is Vic 3, radio check, frequency 50, over. Then someone responds back, read you Lima Charlie, frequency 50, over. Solid copy, out. All right, it's that simple. You're only referred to as your vehicle number in the convoy. All right, so if you're Vic 1, Vic 2, Vic 3, 4, 5, whatever. All right, everybody tracking?
Yes, for Sergeant.
Yes, for Sergeant.
All right. Now, once you have your radio check done as a driver, now you just sit there and wait. Right. After a little bit, everybody will get loaded into the trucks. Again, Grenadier gets up in the gunner's nest. Everybody else just piles into the back of the truck. Now, if you were the Grenadier, once you get up in that gun, if we're on base, you keep that gun pointed straight up in the air. When it comes to orientation, lead Vic has their gun pointed direct front at all times. That gunner is responsible for the front 180. Second Vic is either going to cover the right or the left, either 3 o'clock or 9 o'clock. He will dictate the orientation for everybody else in the convoy. So if Vic 2 is covering right, then Vic 3 has their gun turned to the left. Vic 4 has their gun turned to the right. And it alternates back and forth all the way down to the last Vic. Last Vic has his gun pointed to the direct rear at all times. He's responsible for the rear 180. That lead Vic and that last Vic, they never pull their guns off of that orientation. They are always pointed front and rear. That is it. They do not move their guns off of that. Now, that does not mean you can't turn, 30 degrees, even up to 90 degrees either way if you're engaging targets. But if you're just rolling, you keep your gun pointed to the front and to the rear. Use your fucking head to look around. Don't turn your gun. Alright? Very simple reasoning. Lead Vic and the last Vic are the two vehicles most likely to get hit in a convoy. So if you're in one of those two, you need to keep your gun pointed to the front and to the rear where danger is most likely. All the guys in the middle of the convoy are covering your flanks. Alright? Everybody tracking on that?
Yes, for Sergeant.
Yes, for Sergeant.
Alright. Once you have everybody loaded up in the truck, the convoy is all lined up, ready to go. At that point, the task force commander or the convoy commander at that point will come over convoy net and tell the convoy to begin moving, and will generally set a speed limit. Right, so it would sound something along the lines of convoy commander, be advised, convoy is Oscar Mike, speed limit of 50 kph. Alright. So what that means is, firstly, lead Vic is going to call out lead Vic, Oscar Mike, speed limit of 50 kph. They're going to echo back that order once they start rolling. So that lead Vic is going to start rolling. They're going to get the truck up to 50 kilometers an hour. And then they're going to set the speed limiter. Now you set the speed limiter by hitting the delete key on your keyboard. Now the speed limiter is not a cruise control. Right? It is exactly as it sounds. It limits the speed. So if you're holding whiskey to go forward, you get it up to 50 kph, hit delete. Now the truck will not go any faster than that. Doesn't matter how hard you press the key, it won't go any faster. If you need to turn it off, simply hit delete again. It'll turn the speed limiter off. So again, lead Vic will call out or echo back that order lead Vic, Oscar Mike, 50 kph. Start rolling. Second Vic isn't going to say dick all. Third Vic isn't going to say anything. All the way down the line to the last vehicle. Everybody's going to stay silent with exception to the last vehicle. Last Vic is going to call last Vic, Oscar Mike, 50 kph. Alright, so the first Vic and the last Vic call out that they're rolling. Okay, if we have a 10 vehicle convoy, we don't need all 10 vehicles telling us that they've started rolling. We only need the first Vic and the last Vic. If the first Vic and the last Vic call out what they're doing, we know everybody in the middle has done the exact same thing. Same goes for making turns. If we're going to be making a left turn, lead Vic will come across convoy net, say lead Vic turning left, and then they'll turn left. Everybody else will remain silent until it gets to the last vehicle, and they'll call last Vic turning left. We know the rest of the convoy has made it through that left turn. Same goes for entering a town. Generally, if we're entering a town and there's no known hostiles in it, firstly, we're going to slow down. So the convoy commander will come across the net and say, you know, convoy slow speed to 25 kph. Lead Vic will come back, lead Vic slowing speed 25 kph. Lead Vic entering town. And then we'll roll in. Last Vic will call. Last Vic slowing speed 25 kph entering town. We'll roll through the town. Once we get to the end of it, convoy commander will tell the lead Vic to pick speed back up. Once the lead Vic calls that lead Vic has cleared the town, convoy commander will tell him to speed up. Everybody will speed back up. Last Vic will get to the end of town. Call last Vic has cleared the town. Everybody gets back up to 50 kph, and we're hunky fucking dory. Alright? Everybody tracking on it?
Yes, First Sergeant.
Alright. Now, when it comes to stopping the convoy, anytime we stop these trucks for more than a few seconds, we're going to do something known as a herringbone. Herringbone is what you guys see down at the end of the road to your left there. Essentially, the trucks will pull all the way off the road at a 45-degree angle, alternating sides. So the lead Vic will call herringbone left, and they'll pull off to the left side of the road. Second Vic will pull off to the right side of the road and alternate back and forth, so on and so forth. Lead Vic is the only one that needs to call what direction he is going. Nobody else needs to call that shit. It's all based off of that lead Vic. So if he calls herringbone left, everybody else knows they just need to go the opposite side of the truck in front of them. It's pretty simple. Now once that vehicle herringbones, we're going to dismount. Now there are 3 different types of dismounts that we can do. There's a soft dismount, a combat dismount, and a full dismount. Soft dismount is a minimum. Anytime these trucks stops for more than a few seconds, we soft dismount. Now in a soft dismount, everybody but the driver and the gunner gets out of the vehicle. And so 2 guys are left in the truck. Everybody else gets the fuck out of the truck. Right, these things are big ass bullet magnets. You do not want to just be sitting in the back of them. Now when you do dismount, space the fuck out. Get away from the truck. Move to solid cover that's close by if possible. If not, get to concealment. If there's no concealment, just move out away from the truck and hit the deck. Okay, again, you do not want to be close to one of these trucks. You're providing security for it when we stop. Now, if we herringbone under contact, if we're being engaged in herringbone, and there's no cover or concealment available, you have no other choice, then yes, use the truck for cover, but try to get away from it as quickly as you can. Now, in a combat dismount, everybody but the gunner gets out of the truck. So a combat dismount means we're in combat, we're engaged. Okay, so that's generally going to be used. We're currently engaged. The truck doesn't need to move, so the driver can get out of it. But keep in mind that as a driver, the welfare of that vehicle is your responsibility. So if you're going to be getting out of that truck, you need to make sure that it is parked somewhere where it's protected. So it's behind solid cover. If you can get it behind solid cover that the gunner is able to engage past, all the better. So if you can find a 10-foot wall to park it behind or something to protect the body of the vehicle, but allow the turret to see over top of it, great. All right, if you can hide it behind a building a little bit and give a nice kill lane for the gunner, great. But make sure before you get out of that truck, it is in a protected position. Lastly, full dismount. Anybody have a guess as to who gets out of the truck in a full dismount?
Everyone.
Everybody gets the fuck out the truck. All right. With these Cougars, you're pretty much never going to do a full dismount unless the vehicle gets disabled. Otherwise, there's always someone in that truck. We never leave an armed vehicle unattended. If one of these vehicles gets disabled and we can't repair it in the field, then we'll place demo on it and blow it so that the enemy can't get their hands on it. Otherwise, there is always at least one person in that truck at all times. Now, last thing to go over with herringbone and dismounting. If we herringbone and dismount, do not be the chicken. Do not cross the fucking road. If you dismount on the left side of the road, stay on the fucking left side of the road. Very simple reasons for that. And I should say, don't cross the road unless you are weapons squad. Right? Weapons are special fucking snowflakes in that circumstance. Reason being, if our convoy herringbones because we're engaged from the front by infantry and light armor, everybody, all the trucks are going to peel off to the sides of the road and clear the road. Now, generally, the weapon squad is going to be in the second, third, maybe fourth vehicle back in the convoy. So when that convoy herringbones and everybody piles out of those trucks, if there's infantry and armor down in front of the convoy, that weapon squad is immediately going to go to work. What's going to happen is if they herringbone on the right side of the road, they're going to send one MG section and one close combat missile team across the road. That MG is going to set up on the other side of the road, directly across from his other MG. So they're going to set up on the rails, and they're immediately going to start firing those 240s right down the length of the convoy and engaging contacts down in front of the convoy. So, if you're out in front of them, you sure as shit do not want to be crossing the road and get kneecapped by a fucking 7.62. Secondly, there's armor down there. One of those close combat missile teams, if he's carrying a Maz, he's going to get out into the center of that road and line up a Maz rocket on that piece of armor. And he's going to fire that Maz rocket right down the fucking center of the convoy. And believe me, you don't want to get kneecapped by a 7.62, and you sure as shit do not want to get hit in the side of the head by an 86mm fucking round from a recoilless rifle. It will not be fun, I promise you that. So again, do not be the chicken, do not cross the road. Alright? Everybody understand that?
Yes, sir, Sergeant.
Alright. Now, you guys may think that situation is highly unlikely. I can tell you now, it's not. Because I've personally watched it happen while I was a weapons squad leader. We were in a convoy of 6 vehicles. We had a T-72 tank basically stop the lead truck with its turret in the hood. So when that convoy dismounted, my squad was the 3rd truck back. We dismounted, and I didn't even have to say a word. My guys immediately set up on the rails, and before anybody even knew what was going on, one of my AT gunners had a Maz rocket flying right down the center of that convoy, hitting that tank. Right, so don't think it's something that you're never going to see. It is entirely possible. Now, the last thing I'm going to go over with these trucks, and this goes for not only these vehicles, but any vehicles that we use. You guys are obviously more than welcome to use third person while you're playing. Perfectly acceptable. However, what is not acceptable is abusing that third person view. Now, This not only includes, looking over top of walls or around corners while you're on foot. It also includes calling shit out from inside of a vehicle when you would have no way of knowing it's there. Alright. Now in helicopters, believe me, you can't see shit riding in the back of them. Unless you stand up, which you're not going to be standing up. So, don't be calling shit out saying that you see so-and-so at the LZ or whatever. Keep your mouth shut. I don't care what you see. Same goes for riding in the back of one of these trucks. You sure as shit are not calling out targets to that guy up in the gunner's nest. Alright? I can promise you, after many fucking hours riding in the back of one of these, you cannot see dick all in the back of a Cougar. You're just there for the ride. So do not start calling shit out to the guy up in the turret. Does everybody understand that?
Yes, for
Sergeant.
For Sergeant.
Alright. Now, does anybody have any questions on the shit we have covered thus far?
No questions, sir, Sergeant.
Alright. Now, was Sergeant Myers able to get to mount with you guys last weekend on day 2? I'm going to take your silence as a fucking no. Come on, guys. Wake the fuck up.
Morgan and I are from the Tuesday, Thursday.
Was Class Bravo, did they go over mount on Thursday?
We touched on it, yes. We
Okay.
didn't do any exercises or anything.
Exercise isn't important. It's just the basics.
Okay. Then, yes, we did cover it.
Alright.
Pereira, your mic is making a weird sound.
I was just going to tell him I can't even fucking hear him if he is speaking, so...
Yeah, not hearing anything.
Yeah, Pereira, we can't hear you. You're getting some type of grounding issue. You might want to make sure your mic is hooked up correctly and not running over top of any power cords or anything like that, because it's just giving us a weird humming sound. Alright. So. That's not needing to go over mount then. That is going to be it for today. Alright. Now, again, today was pretty goddamn calm. It's just a lot of you listening to me fucking talk. Alright. That being said, tomorrow, there'll be plenty of fucking excitement for you. Tomorrow we'll get in here, same time. We'll get some other guys from the unit in here to fill in to get you a full squad, and we'll send you guys out on your field training exercise. Alright, it will be a hour and a half long operation based on a squad size element. You guys will go out, complete the objective, hopefully. Then we'll debrief afterwards, critique your performance, see how you guys did, and then we'll move on to your oral quiz. Alright? Anybody have any questions on what's going to happen tomorrow?
No, First Sergeant.
For Sergeant.
Alright. Make sure you are on time tomorrow. You don't know what on time means? It means you're 15 minutes fucking early. Make sure you are on time and ready to go tomorrow. Alright, that's going to be it for today. You guys are dismissed. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday afternoon.
Thank you.
Alright, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed that today. I know it's just a bunch of me talking. It's really nothing special or anything. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed, and we'll be back at it here in just a little bit. I'm going to be playing some more Shadows of War today, so if you guys want to see some more of that, come back in probably about 30 minutes to an hour. I'll go back live with that, and I will see you all later.